Hey YouTube, this is Cresta, and here I have version 3 of the I.L.M.O.S deck profile. So this profile is ready to go at the first day of the new format, and well, there's a few new tricks to it from the last time you saw the deck. So without further ado, let's get on with the deck, shall we? First, we have the 3 Traptrix Myrmeleos. She searches out a trap card when she's normal summoned, and when she's special summoned, destroys a back row. 3 Grandmaster Ninja Hanzos. He is responsible for getting the super poly of the deck. And then we have 3 Magileines, which pretty much her only purpose is to really search out herself, as well as always having a monster presence to be able to normal summon. And then here is the newest addition to the deck, 1 Armageddon Knight. So he's basically a Stratos that doesn't add to your hand, but rather he just mills the targets. So this is the Stratos lineup here. 3, 6, 9, 10 Stratoses. And then here are the rest of the monsters. I will start off with Armageddon Knight's targets. 1 Zephyros and 1 Plaguespreader. I'll get more into these later. Next we have 2 Photon Thrashers, 1 Upstart Golden Ninja, 2 Masked Cameleons, Blackluster Soldier, 1 White Dragon Ninja, 1 Redox, and 1 Hyper Hammerhead. For those of you guys who don't know, basically whatever monster this card battles, if the monster is not destroyed, then it bounces back to the hand. And 1 Kagetokage. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 monsters that are not Stratos. Now for the spells. We have 1 Dark Hole, 1 Pot of Duality, 1 Book of Moon, 1 Rhoda, 1 Mystical Space Typhoon. It's pretty small, but this is a really trap-heavy deck. For traps, we have 2 Ninjutsu Art of Transformation, 1 Fiendish Chain, 1 Call of Haunted, 1 7 Tools, 1 Solemn Warning, and for the Traptrix targets, we have 1 Bottomless, 1 Void Trap Hole, 1 Trap Hole, and 1 Traptrix Nightmare Trap Hole. Now we have 1 Compulse, 2 Mirror Forces, and 1 D-Prison for the attack hate, as well as 1 Scrap-Iron Scarecrow, and 1 Wild Tornado. So that's traps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 traps. And moving on, we have the extra deck. For the extra deck, we have 1 Sirius, 1 Vulcan, 1 Thought Ruler, 1 Colossal Fighter, 1 Star Spark Dragon, 1 Crimson Blader, and 1 Scrap Dragon. That's it for the synchros. Now we have 1 King of Feral Imp, 1 Diamond Dire Wolf, 1 Tiramisu, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Maestroke, Blade Armor, Gaga Cowboy, and Ouroboros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 XYZs, and 7 synchros. So that's just a quick run through of the extra deck. Now we have the side deck. 1 card D. I side this card in pretty much every game because I want to draw into my side deck cards faster. And the opponent tends to side in mistake like every game if they can side mistake. So this card helps me get around mistake as well as draw into my MSTs faster. 1 Vanity's Fiend. against special summon heavy decks. One Angel 07, because there's a rise of plants and Boojins. So this card's really good. And there's always a monster for me to tribute because of the way the deck runs. For those of you who don't know what Angel 07 does, when he's tribute summoned, monster effects cannot be activated as long as he's on the field. One Thunder King, one Goblinberg, and one Maxi. The reason I decide Goblinberg is so I can game 2 if I don't have MST, but say I have him or a Rhoda and a Traptrix Myrmeleo in my hand. I can use him to special her to pop a back row and then go for Exceed. And he's a 0 defense Earth Warrior, so works out really well with the deck. So that's the monsters for the extra deck. I mean, that's the monsters for the side deck. Then we have some more back row hate in the form of one Dust Tornado and two MSTs. Then we have Vandy's Emptiness, one Trap Hole, and one Debunk. I side Trap Hole because if I'm playing against a normal summon heavy deck, this is what the current Trap Hole lineup looks like. But if I'm against a normal summon heavy deck like Boojins, these two cards aren't going to be as useful, so I'm left with like 2 useful and 2 dead. But I'd rather have 3 useful instead of that ratio. So Trap Hole helps fix the Trap Hole lineup. And then we have a Closed Forest, XYZ Encore, and Creature Swap to help get rid of big beater decks. Yeah, so that's the quick run through of the deck. If you guys want to stick around for some combos and some card explanations, then keep watching the video. If you don't want to see those and you want to just try to figure it yourself out, then exit out. So the best first turn play that this deck has would be revolving around Thrasher. Thrasher is what enables you to go into King of Pharaoh Imp. So the monsters that you would want to go with are either Traptrix Myrmeleo or a Madolche Magileine or an Armageddon Knight. You can also use Hanzo, but if you use him to exceed into the Pharaoh Imp, the trap card you search for isn't active anymore because you don't have a face-up ninja. But that's easily fixed later on. I'll show you that later on as well. So you use Special Thrasher, and then normal either Traptrix Myrmeleo to search out a Bottomless, or you can normal her to search out another copy of herself, or you can normal him to mill a Zephyros or a Plaguespreader, and then go into Pharaoh Imp, detach Thrasher, and then you can either search out a Kagetokage or a Masked Cameleon. Next turn, if he survives, detach the second one and then add the second one to your hand. So you can do that, but there's a little bit more to that than just searching. It really depends on your hand. So you Special Thrasher, a Magileine. Summon her, you can search out another copy of Magileine, and then go into Imp, and then detach. So you have a Magileine, and then here I would recommend you search out Kagetokage. Next turn you can summon her, search, and then special, and then go into a rank 4. And then this way, when you draw into late game, it's better to top deck a Masked Cameleon rather than top decking a Kagetokage. But assume that you don't have another monster in your hand as well, and let's say you have these two, and you go into Imp, and then you have only back row left in your hand. I would recommend you detach him and search out the Chameleon so you have a monster to summon, and then next turn search out the second Kage. I would never really search out 2 Chameleons in a row, because if you summon him and then Synchro, and you have now the other Masked Cameleon in your hand, you can't summon it because you have a high level monster in the field. I would just search out Kage and search him out, and then search him out. So then you can summon him, and then he's still active if you summon another monster to go along with it. So in priority, I would search out him, and then him for late game purposes. But in those situations where you don't have another monster to summon to help out Kage, then search out Masked Cameleon. Now I play one Armageddon Knight because I only have 2 useful targets in the deck, so you only need to activate his effect once. The priority-wise, I would send Zephyros first, and then Plaguespreader. The reason this being is you want Zephyros in graveyard so you have that opportunity to always get a extra level 4 in the field. Plaguespreader, he's really only good in like certain situations, like if you want to get rid of a monster using Vulcan or such. And plus, if it's better to top deck a Plaguespreader rather than top decking a Zephyros, because with Zephyros you can only make ranks, but the deck always does that anyway. It's good to summon Plaguespreader, then go into a 6, then special to go into an 8. So it opens up that option. But if you mill a Plaguespreader first, then it kind of makes you have to top deck a card from your hand in order to activate its effect. And then even then you're only making a level 6 synchro. But I'd rather just have a free balance back to the hand to get a free plus in order to go into rank 4. So I would just, first priority I would mill Zephyros. But if Zephyros is in the hand, like say you have these 2 in hand, then mill Plaguespreader. Now the turn's opening turn depends on what your hand is, but that really goes without saying. But in these situations where you say have Thrasher or don't have Thrasher, and then you draw any combination of these 4 cards, either one of the Stratoses. You try to figure out what you want to search first. The way I do it is Magileine is always going to be the last, because when she searches out, she only searches for a monster. Versus these guys, which actually searches out something that would help out faster. She would be the highest priority that I would search out, because this sets up the back row. So she would most likely have the highest chance of surviving one turn, and then I could go into one of the others. Hanzo, I would summon the second to last in priorities wise, like mainly because he is the reason why I can get over already established monsters. Backrow decks have the inherent weakness of, if your opponent already has an established field, the backrow that you just set is kind of useless if they're like only trap holes or warnings and such. So he helps get rid of already established fields. Summon him, search out a Ninjutsu art trap card, and then don't attack, or attack if you want to in a small monster, and then just transform with their big beater into a White Dragon Ninja. Generally you're going to see these 2 a lot in the hand, because I play 3 of each. Priority wise would be to summon her first, and then add a Bottomless from your deck to your hand, and then set it, along with any other back row that you have. Protect her for 1 turn with, say, Bottomless. Next turn, summon Magileine, or any of these 2. Well, actually I wouldn't summon Hanzo. I would summon either of these 2. So summon, say, Magileine. Use Magileine's effect to add a second copy of herself, and then exceed into King of Pharaoh Imp. Use his effect, detach, search for Kagetokage. Now you have Magileine and Kagetokage to have the option for a rank 4 next turn. If he survives, detach, search out Masked Cameleon, then summon her, add the second copy of her to your hand, and here is the Tiramisu factor. If she survives, summon Tiramisu. But if you need a rank 4 that turn, you can just summon, search out, special, and go into this. And then you still have your hand presence. So that's one way of doing it. If you have these 2 in hand, however, and just these 2, I would summon her first, set the Bottomless, Next turn, summon Armageddon Knight and mill a Zephyros. Then use Zephyros' effect, bounce her back to your hand, and then overlay into a Pharaoh Imp. Use this effect, detach wherever you want, and then add Kagetokage. Next turn, you can summon her, add another trap hole, special, then overlay. Hanzo would probably be the monster that you least exceed with. In a situation where you have Thrasher and Hanzo, and you search out Super Trans, there is a temptation to go into Pharaoh Imp so you can get another plus off it. But usually you just do this. But in a situation where I have him, Thrasher, and Call of the Haunted, I would go into Thrasher, summon Hanzo, and then search out this card. Go into the Imp, and then detach material. Usually you would detach Thrasher, but in this case, detach Hanzo. And I would, in this situation, I like to search out Masked Cameleon because of a little cool combo. Set this card and this card. On the opponent's turn, flip, Call Haunted, special Hanzo. Hanzo's effect triggers, and then search out a golden Upstart ninja. Here, Super Transformation is live again. So, usually this will be able to protect him. If it does, awesome. Transform Hanzo, and you can go into White Dragon Ninja or Redox. So at the end phase, Redox would bounce back to hand, and then detach if he's still alive to search out. But this is what your hand would generally look like. So if you have a Kagetokage in hand as well from the second search, power to you, I would summon this special Kage and then go into rank 4. Or you can just simply normal summon special Thrasher and then synchro from there. And then you leave these two in hand along with a possibly Kagetokage. And hopefully it's drawn to an Earth like eventually, which is most likely. So you can discard Redox and that Earth to special out him, normal him, and then synchro. So doing these three, that combo right there, is really powerful, and it sets up for a long string of summons for the rest of the game. Generally, Thrasher into Pharaoh Imp sets up pretty much a long string of normal summons, and you're always going to guarantee to have a play. In a situation where you don't have the optimal first turn play, and you just have Thrasher, and say any level 4 in your hand that's kind of useless, still, normal summon it, go into Pharaoh Imp, and then search out the Masked Cameleon. Basically that translates to you've normal summoned a 23 beater that might search next turn, and then you have a synchro coming up next turn. So don't be afraid to just special Thrasher and then exceed with anything. The only time you really think about exceeding with Thrasher and another monster into Imp is if you have Hanzo. Hanzo's special because of the thing he searched out for, so that's just a different story in the long run. Plaguespreader is good to fix hands that have either, say you have her in your hand, or say you have two Magilines in hand. Like something in, like something that makes your hand bad because you drew into it. If he's in the graveyard, you can just top deck one of this in special, and then summon a search card to shuffle the deck. And then you go into a 6, either a Vulcan or a Sirius. Or say you have, in a situation where you have like 2 Magilines in hand, and this in your graveyard, just top deck a Magileine, special, normal summon Magileine, and then add Magileine from your deck to your hand, and synchro into a Sirius if you don't have a back row to bounce, or if you do have a back row to bounce, again we go into a Vulcan. Now you have a Madolche Magileine in your graveyard and one in your hand, and its Tiramisu factor is back up and active again. The targets that you have for Hanzo and Super Art Transformation are Redox, White Dragon Ninja, and Hyper Hammerhead. So before, in the previous version of the deck, when Redox was at 3, there was 3 Redoxes and 1 White Dragon Ninja. By rulings of this card, if I target Hanzo and 1 more monster in the field, if either of those 2 monsters change, like if it leaves the field or gets lanced, the other monster still goes. And then you scan the level of that monster and special. So before, if they would lance their monster, I would send Hanzo and not have any other targets. So that would suck. So that's why I put Hammerhead in here. Hammerhead's pretty much always going to go into the field no matter what. And he's a Earth, so he has some synergy with Redox, and level 4 makes him have synergy with the rest of the deck. And if you draw into him, it's not bad, because you can just summon him and like attack into a monster. If it lives, bounces back to the hand, so it kind of acts like a DD War Lady. Or you can just set him and they attack into him, and their monster would bounce back to the hand. Some other cool combos: if you have Hanzo in the field, you can flip the transformation, transform into him with their monster, the normal summon at level 4, and then synchro or exceed with it. And that's something you couldn't do with just these 2. Most people forget, but you can have, say you transform into White Dragon Ninja, and then you have a second copy of this card set. You can transform this guy as well, because it's a ninja, into a Redox or a Hyper Hammerhead. So White Dragon is pretty much always a go-to first, because you want it to thin your deck out, and you want a second transformation, if you happen to have it, back up and live as well. The main targets for Zephyros being in the graveyard are 1 face-up Ninjutsu art, Call a Haunted, or a Fiendish Chain. But assuming you don't have one of these face-up on the field, usually you would have a Traptrix Myrmeleo. So you can summon her at a Bottomless, and then next turn, if she's alive, bounce her back to hand, special Zephyros, normal her again, search out another trap hole, and then exceed into whatever you want to exceed into. So before, I was playing Fairy Box in a previous build, but then as I tested more, my coin flips haven't exactly been lucky, so I kind of got tired of getting my monsters smacked into whenever I call it wrong. So I replaced it with 1 Scrap-Iron Scarecrow. This card has been working a lot better, because usually my opponents will only have like 1 monster left to be alive, because my back row takes care of most of it. So in a 1 versus 1, Scrap-Iron keeps my monster alive. Next turn I can summon a Masked Cameleon or another level 4, go into a synchro or exceed, and then run their monster over. And this way I can keep my back row longer, because this card's still here. And overall, in the long run, I get to keep my back row for the actual scary stuff, and then just have this be alive for bigger stuff. And if I have this face down, and like just a monster, usually they would have to summon more than 1 monster to run over. So like in 1 18-beater and another 18-beater, for example. Attack her, flip the Scarecrow, and then they attack with another monster, Mirror Force, or just Mirror Force the first one. So Mirror Force gets in there a little bit more active. So that's why I'm playing 2 now, versus the previous version that was playing only 1. So monsters tend to stay alive a lot more often because of this card, and thanks to that, I can go into my Xyz and Synchros more often. Contrary to the previous version where I wasn't main decking any MSTs, I'm now main decking 1 Wild Tornado and 1 MST. The reason why I'm not main decking 2 MSTs is because Wild Tornado has a little bit more synergy with Golden Upstart Ninja, so I can discard and go off. But say you have Wild Tornado, this hits tankies, but also this gets Gyoku'd a lot. So if they Gyoku this card, then it's done for. If it's MST, it's also done for. Before, I was able to go into a Scrap Dragon, and say I pop this card, the MST, and 1 card they have, it's just regular popped. But if I popped a Wild Tornado and one of their cards, Wild Tornado would trigger and pop another card in the field. So that's one advantage to having one of this card getting stunned and then this card getting stunned as well. But if I'm in a bad situation, if I have these two set, I can activate MST, target this card, and use this card's effect to target their monster. So that's an emergency situation. Scrap-Iron Scarecrow also has more synergy with the side deck because of these two cards. So say my monster lives for one turn. For example, Traptrix Myrmeleo. She's protected by the trap hole that she searches out, as well as Scrap-Iron. So protect her for one turn. Next turn, tribute her into Angel 07 or into a Vanity's Fiend. Then this card would run over their monster. Meanwhile, you still have your trap hole if you didn't activate it. And then you also have this card to protect this card. So usually the plan would have been, say she's on the field, and then my opponent attacks in her. If I Mirror Force, then Mirror Force is gone, she's protected. Next turn I tribute for her for a Angel 07 or a Vanity's Fiend. The Mirror Force is gone. So they would be able to run it over with like a Yamato or something. This is where Scrap-Iron is a little bit more superior because it stays here to protect the resulting monster that comes out afterwards. So that's kind of cool. So this is what I'm going to get into, which is called the Tiramisu factor. The Tiramisu factor is when you have one Magileine in the graveyard and one Magileine in the hand. The way you do this is just summon one, search her out, and then synchro or see with her to get her into the graveyard. And then next turn you would summon her, search out the other Magileine, and all you have to do is protect her for one turn. If she survives one turn, normal summon the other Magileine, and then exceed into Tiramisu. And then now you have a target in the graveyard, so you can detach, and then send back either one other cards back into the deck, or send two other cards back into the deck. If at all possible, I would like to send back only one back to your deck, so that way I still have a target in the graveyard. So the next turn I can detach, send two back into the deck. And from there we have all three Magilines back into the deck, just waiting to be drawn into to start the engine all over again. So yeah, that's the deck, guys. This is made in memory of Stratos. If you like it, then drop a comment down below and tell me how you thought about the deck. If there's any tweaks that you thought were cool, or if there's any ideas that you think that would be helpful for the deck. So yeah, have fun with the deck. It's really fun. It always gets good comments, and the deck just always sort of changes the way it plays because it plays a lot of 1-ofs. So it's always going to be interesting. So give the profile a thumbs up, guys, if you support Stratos coming back. Subscribe, and look forward to the next installment. This is Crowcresta, signing out.